name's Pete Gordon. I'm Head of Emergency Care Improvement with ECIST, the Emergency Care Improvement Support Team, and welcome to the latest podcast in our podcast series. Today, I'm joined by Stephen Collman. Stephen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello, I'm Stephen and I'm the Director of Operations at George Eliot Hospital.
Well, welcome, Stephen. So we're going to have a chat about the life of a busy Director of Operations in the world of urgent and emergency care. So first question, Stephen, is how do you go about balancing the competing priorities that, inevitably you have with urgent emergency care, elective care, and all the other things that you have to deal with on a daily basis?
So I think the approach we've taken here at George Eliot, and certainly I have, is a kind of let's fix the things that are measured in hours, then we'll fix what's measured in days, and then we'll fix what's measured in weeks, really. And obviously that was an approach we took. I've been here a couple of years, and it was an approach I took very much with the team. Obviously COVID's impacted a bit on that and we've had to reevaluate, but our journey's been quite significant, really. And I think we've seen the improvement of that. I guess my big things to say are, and particularly in operations, it's really easy to do this, is don't let the urgent crowd out the important. You've got to work out what the big things are that you want to kind of improve, and they're the signals that you keep sending to the teams and to the organisation. So give a couple of examples. One of my big things was around leadership in the ED department and how they involved everybody, and particularly the nursing staff, the whole MDT approach. And we spent a lot of time on that, and that's one of the things that can maybe go to the sideline when you're a bit busy and you're focusing on those, what's the next breach, what's this, what's that. The other massive thing for me was around flow. Flow was king, really, for me, and I made that an early statement, and we wrapped an awful lot around it in terms of how we measure it, how we manage it, and also, particularly for me as Director of Ops, is the work that I did in the system. And we've got some really strong relationships in the system, and we've kind of really used that to bring some benefit, particularly when you look at George Eliot's 7, 14 and 21 day length of stay. Our 21 day length of stay, we've halved it, really. I mean, we have the odd blip, but we've gone from around 40, we're down to around 20. Usually we're 15, which for this hospital, that's a massive improvement. We've still got a long way to go, but we've made massive strides. And again, my focus was on getting the system and all of us getting aligned to do the right thing. So I think my big thing would be, don't let the urgent crowd out that importance, and also know your big ticket items that you're just going to keep focusing on and just keep going at them. You obviously have to deal with operational pressures as they come up, and there's always things, but I think if you generally, most of your time you're focusing on that, you'll generally make progress.
So brilliant. So Stephen, it sounds like you've made some great strides forward. What are the things that you mentioned? One of them, the reduction number of long stay patients. Yeah. What are the top 2 or 3 things that you're most proud of in terms of urgent and emergency care?
So I pick one's really. One I'm really proud of is we're doing a presentation. We've been working with our leadership team. We're doing a presentation from ED, and what they've done is they've done like a bit of a mini snapshot survey with the staff about how it's different. And then people will be aware there's that word cloud methodology, the more a word comes up, the bigger it is. And the centre of this slide is the big word, it just says inclusion. And I think that what that means is I think our department, they're all bought into the success of the department. And I think the other bit I see from that is that certainly our other directorates, I think we are starting to live that ED is not just ED's problem, it's a whole hospital problem. And what we've really got with the teams now is they're trying to help ED, but ED are also having the conversation about how they can help others. So we're starting to get a bit more outward looking. And I guess finally, really what really is I'm pleased with is our improved ambulance handover performance. So we have dramatically reduced our over 1 hour handovers. We've eliminated them for a lot of months, and we've got a relentless focus on that, really, because they're a key partner. We talk around patient safety, and yet that's a community out there if they can't get out there. And I think that really challenges some of the narratives they've held for a long time in the department. People will be aware of it. They'll say things like, "Oh, they're batching, they're coming on." Now there's a real focus on how do we make that a lot better and see them. How do they contribute to that ambulance performance? And that outward look is really important. I think that's a massive mindset shift, really.
Yeah, brilliant. And so it sounds like you've really made big strides in terms of inclusion and getting the work in the hands of the many. So how have you gone about that? So that sounds like quite a bit of a turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, there was some difficult. We had. I mean, won't be on. I'll be honest. We had some difficult leadership conversations to have about. Quite often, it can be said, but it's not actually delivered. And so we put a lot of support around the team. We looked at some key recruitment, and part of that recruitment was what are their values, what are their beliefs. So certainly from our CD matron, the top of it, and the general manager, they absolutely believe and passionately care about involving the staff, and that's been the thing. And I guess for us board directors and as a board, we've been really clear on the signals that we get and encouraging them. And it's that measure to improve the whole improvement methodology, isn't it? Is they've come up with ideas, we wrap around them, we put the appropriate measures in, check that it's working. Some do, some don't, but it's not discouraging them when it does, and that's been a key thing for us. So I think we've had to do some tough stuff, but we've done it. We've done it quickly. We've done it fairly, and I think, and the team's gone on from that really, and we're in constant feedback with them around how they're doing and encouraging and supporting them, and I think they've really kind of grown from there.
Yeah. So just building on that, Stephen. So it sounds like my next question is you sort of partially answered it, but how do you get the balance between continuous quality improvement and then that daily grind of ops? How can you get the balance between both?
So I think sometimes we're a bit in danger of we see them as mutually exclusive. I'm dealing with this over here, and I've got these big problems over here. And I think what I've tried to do when I do it, and it's the same for cancer in RTT, and I think we try and do it with our leadership teams, is actually they're pretty much interlinked problems, and actually if you keep focusing on some of this bigger stuff behind it, using that improvement methodology, you'll see those ops problems become easier to manage. The key bit for me, and what we've done a lot of, particularly around the length of stay, was what is the problem we're trying to fix? Put some measurements behind it. What is actually our biggest problem that we're fixing? A classic here that we did, and again, it was really helpful with the exec team, but we all did it in our interactions, was what's the cause of the biggest delay? And you'd get 10 different answers if you spoke to 10 different people. And my aim very early was, let's get one answer. So we're all really clear about we're fixing that. And then when we fix that, we move on to the next and the next and the next. And so I think that's a really important thing, and that helps you balance it, because it's really easy to play that game of whack-a-mole of fix one problem. I think I fixed it, and then another one pops up, and another one, and you just feel like you're chasing around. And actually, the staff know you're doing that, and you end up, I think, the signals that we send, I think that's a really important message, is I'm clear on what we've got to fix as a big problem and as a system, and they see that, and then they know, right, you cover that and we'll cover, and I think that drives that more internal focus for them to be the best they can be. What can we fix? What do we need you to fix? And then I can do what does the system help need? And then I think generally we've got a good alignment across that at George Eliot.
Brilliant. Now, last question now, Stephen, and I think you may have covered some of the answers partially before, but say if I'm a new director of ops or someone who's new to a leadership role, whether it's operational or a clinical leadership role, and you're working on the urgent emergency care pathway, what are your sort of top big tips just to finish off?
Yeah, I think if you're new, particularly if you're new or you're going somewhere new, I did it here. I don't think it does any help to strip it right back. So I did a lot of walking the floor, got to see it, got to feel it. And you may be new to a place, but you'll sense when you feel if it's not quite right or what you need to fix. So I wouldn't underestimate the importance of that and triangulating the views that you're getting. I think that thing of what is the problem I've got to fix? What is my biggest problem first? Finding the metrics around that, because you'll get a lot of white noise, and you can lose yourself a lot of the times in data. You've got to work out for yourself, right, is this the biggest problem that I've got to fix? And I think never let perfect get in the way of good. And I think that's really important. So people will, for whatever, usually for the best of reasons, well, it needs to look like this when it's completely finished. Well, let's make some steps towards it, and let's start that journey, and then we'll see where it takes us. And I think once people get a bit of success under their belt, it builds, and before you know it, it's just run off with itself. I think perfectly designing it and trying to jump straight to that, I've found that, you tend not to do that, and you'll lose yourself in that, and it'll be 3 months before you know it, and you've not really moved it on.
Brilliant. I couldn't agree more. Stephen, really enjoyed that interview. It sounds like you, your colleagues in the Trust and the wider system have done some great work, which is real benefit to patients. So thank you very much.
No, thank you.